You are listening to the New Jersey Business Podcast with your friend, host, all-around good guy, Paul Valverde. Now, on to the show.
What's shaking, New Jersey? Thank you for joining me once again. I am so excited to have with us today Bryan Klein, founder and CEO of the Max Challenge. If you're not familiar, the Max Challenge is a 10-week fitness experience that combines fitness classes, nutrition counseling, and motivation all into one program. Currently, the Max Challenge has over 70 locations and is spread out over 6 states. I am so pleased to have Bryan with us today. And in today's conversation, we're going to be focusing on the power of why, the purpose, your purpose in business, and how Bryan used this to fuel him through the toughest times, him and his team, in his business. So Bryan, welcome and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Paul. Thanks for that absolutely fantastic introduction. Really appreciate it.
So Bryan, I'd like to have our audience get to know you a little bit. So will you please share about yourself?
Definitely. So I was born in Brooklyn, New York. Like most people during those times, my parents wanted something better for us, so we moved to New Jersey. And when we moved out here to New Jersey, there was nothing, right? It was farms, cows, chickens. There was nothing. Our backyard was literally a farm. And as I started to get older, my father wanted me to learn to defend myself for whatever reason, right? Because it was a new place. We were different than a lot of the people that were here at the time. And he enrolled me in martial arts lessons. And actually, that became a tremendous part of my life and the beginning of an adventure that eventually led me to the Max Challenge, which was founded right here in Manalapan, New Jersey.
Wow. So growing up, you were exposed to martial arts, that type of physical activity. And that was kind of like what you were acquainted with, familiar with. I'd like to know, how is it that you get into business for yourself? How is it that you enter that world?
So this is where the power of why really comes in, because the moment that I walked into that martial arts school, I felt something in my heart. I knew that I looked at the gentleman standing at the front of the class, teaching that class, and I said to myself, that's what I want to do. And I was 8 years old. And the amazing thing about it is I was brought up in a household that said, always follow your dreams, try your hardest, be the best you can be, do good for other people. And it wasn't standing in front of the room and teaching martial arts that really excited me. It was the culture of that place. It was all about helping others to be the best that they can be. And that passion that I recognized at 8 years old, some people would have called it a fad, right? Like, I hope he outgrows this because this doesn't seem like a viable career. But, they did always encourage me to listen to my heart, follow my passion. And that was really the beginning of it, Paul. That's where I discovered my passion for helping people to live happier, healthier, more fulfilled lives.
Yeah, I like that. That in going to business for yourself, you define the fact that you want to improve people's lives, right? So it's not just, I feel like in our culture, sometimes there is that mentality of the hustle and make money, and you lose sight of the importance of providing value to the people you serve.
It's 100% true. And I could tell you that there's points in my life that were like, crossroads. And I could have, as I began to grow up, a lot of people stop listening to their intuition and to their passions and to what they truly want. Talking about, what drove me really to get into business. I never stopped listening to it. And even my inner voice, I never stopped listening to, even when the pressures from the outside of people saying, it's time for you to get a job. This isn't working exactly as planned, or sounds like a crazy idea. I just kept marching forward. But what kept me moving forward really was the idea of helping people live happier, healthier, more fulfilled lives. And, ultimately, it wasn't until I recognized, I call it like an aha moment.
Yeah.
And I did open up a chain of martial arts schools. I followed my dream and we did okay. We made all right for ourselves. We made an okay living, and we did a lot of good in the community though, like not just instilling confidence in the people that we were teaching martial arts to, and instilling physical fitness and self-defense and all these things. But we would do charity fundraisers every year. And that was like the best day of the year, because it would lift us up. If it was a good year, it was a bad year, financially, still good about ourselves and moving this business forward. But one year, the aha moment that I'm about to tell you and the viewers about, I was standing on this stage and we were about to present, believe it or not, this is a crazy story. I'm just going to tell a small part of it. We were about to present a handicapped accessible van to a family that desperately needed this. They had a 15-year-old child that was suffering from cerebral palsy. And there's a whole backstory of how we got to this point, and all these ups and downs of how we had to persevere. But just, we were presenting this van, and it was like an amazing emotional experience. If you just imagine it for a minute, we were, this team of people in this karate school had nothing to do, was about to change this family's life. And as I peered out from behind this curtain where there was a huge audience that was about to be part of this presentation of this van, I thought to myself, holy cow, somehow we motivated all these people to come to this place. It's absolutely amazing. And then I gave myself credit for 1 second, because, you're not supposed to give yourself credit, right? It's the team. And it truly is a team. But I said, it was just during the recession. I said, I motivated these people to get here somehow. We have 1,800 people on this thing, and we're presenting this van. We raised all this money. I said, how is it that I could go the extra mile for others, but not always for myself and my family? And then I thought, I asked myself an even better question. I said, if I could combine business with what I love, helping other people, can I get leverage on myself to do even more? What am I good at? Am I really good at that enough people want that I could help even more people and help my family at the same time? And literally, Paul, in that second, I thought fitness, nutrition, and motivation. I'm good at those three things, and nobody's combined. And that I just kept playing in my mind that day: fitness, nutrition, motivation, to give people amazing results.
Yeah.
Then I took the next most important step. And, hopefully this helps just one person. If I could help just one person, I took action. I went home immediately. I wrote it down. I wrote down my ideas. I formulated a 1-page business plan, and I began to move in that direction. And the rest is history. It took off. But it's that passion. If you could discover what it is that you truly love, you're going to be able to tap in and leverage, even when times are tough. I mean, we all just went collectively, worldwide, for the first time ever. In, I think, all of our lifetimes, we experienced a worldwide traumatic event. And through that entire event, we're still hanging on to fitness, nutrition, motivation to help people make outstanding results. And people need it now more than ever. So the point is if people could discover what it is that they truly love and then leverage that with a business, it'll help them in the good times. It'll help in the bad times. It'll help them to create tremendous value for the people that they serve.
Yeah. I think I think you dropped a bunch of gems in what you just shared. Yes, certainly, if you're passionate about something, motivated about something, and you can help others and make a living out of it, make a profit out of it, it's a win-win. I like what you said though. You went home, you jotted some things down, put together a 1-page business plan and took action. Oftentimes, I talk to people who are so stuck, so caught up in the planning process of getting everything perfect, everything right. And then that planning turns into procrastination and never becomes action. Nothing ever comes to fruition because they get caught up in things like, I need to get my logo right. I need to get this right. And they lose sight of their purpose, of the power of why.
Oh my, you hit it on that one. It's true. Yep. That whole 1 page was really centered around the power of why. What is the purpose of this business? And then I detailed some of the high level, systems that we were going to execute against, and then literally went to work. But what you just said rings very true to me, because there were times I already had a business. I already had the martial arts schools, right? So there were times in my head I was saying, what am I doing? I'm starting another business. I'm going to get distracted from the way I'm making a living. You know, I'm going to disadvantage myself. I'm going to not be paying attention to my core business. And is it going to even work? This is all right. So the negative voice does come out, and that pushes procrastination sometimes. But you know, what I found is pushing that voice down and paying attention to the other voice that says, what if this actually does work?
Yeah.
There's probably tens of thousands of people waiting for this product. There's millions of people actually that need fitness, nutrition, and motivation combined.
So, Bryan, before the Max Challenge, you already had experience having a franchise because you say you had several locations, right? Is that
Yeah,
right?
it wasn't franchise. We owned,
You own,
several locations. Yeah.
okay, you own several locations. So when you began the Max Challenge,
Uh-huh.
do you have that vision, or was the vision growing as you were progressing? What was that? What was that like?
It was a combination of the two. You know, I've always had the vision to scale. I always thought, you know, I'm going to scale. Even my martial arts schools, we scaled and we had several locations. But, you know, with this, it was a little bit different. It was a combination of the two because, and anyone who's listening, I think this is good advice. It's advice someone gave to me that I'm just, you know, passing on. He said, make small bets. Don't stop the business that you're in and throw it completely to the side, which is the opposite of some of what I've been taught. You know, some people tell me, you burn your bridges and go for it and don't, right? Which is a good strategy. I've done that sometimes in my life with certain things, but this worked really well. We took small bets, right? So we didn't like go crazy with it. We started just one class, believe it or not. It was a program within karate schools at the time, two classes in the right. And then that started to take off, and that did a couple of things. We started to learn what worked, what didn't work. We started to systematize the way that the classes were going to be executed, the way our nutrition program was going to be laid out. It all started to kind of unfold, right, as it started to come together. And then we added another class, and I thought of every class kind of like a franchise, right? So now I had a system on how the class was going to be executed. And most importantly, I was going to find an instructor to teach that class, and I was going to put them through the filter. And what was the filter? Does this person have the passion to help people live happier, healthier, more fulfilled lives? I wanted to make sure that I partnered with people that had similar values, because I knew that was the engine that was going to really drive this thing forward, right? And so that business plan, that part of it was really important. But then after we got that class going, then we did another one, then we added two, then we added three. And then once we got that running, we added another location. And from there, it started to scale very quickly. We scaled to 6 locations in less than a year.
Wow.
So it was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
It was pretty crazy. It was 6 months of development, 6 months of like running one location. And then that next year, we were up to 6 locations. So that part of it went very quick. You know, a lot of people would think it was an overnight success, but it really wasn't. It was like an overnight success, 30 something years in the making, right? Because of all the learnings and such.
That's right, folks. And I hope you're catching this. I hope you're picking up on those writer downers that Bryan is dropping. He mentioned the word systems. In order for your business to be scalable, in order for you to be able to grow your business, you have to have systems and procedures in place. Otherwise, you just stump. You can't grow, right?
It's true.
Then the other thing you said that is huge is you had to put that person through the filter.
Yes.
And what happens is sometimes people get caught up in the process of hiring. I need somebody qualified. I need somebody experienced. However, if they're not a core value match, if they don't go through that, if they don't pass that filter of having the same passion and motivation, they could be the most experienced person in the world, but they're just not going to be the right fit in order to fulfill your vision. They're not going to be the right fit in order to put in action the systems that you've designed, that you've put in place. So that's huge, Bryan. Thank you very much for sharing that and touching on those things. So let me ask you, at what point do you decide to go full throttle with Max Challenge? Because I understand that you kind of started a pilot program, which I think it's all, some people feel that in order to start a business, you have to have great capital and you have to start like huge and everything new. And And in your experience, you've demonstrated you started small, just trying something out. Probably didn't have to financially invest that much to get yourself up and running, to test something, but you got enough result that you were able to invest more time into it, and you decided to invest more money into it. And then it kept growing to the point then in which you expanded to 6 locations in a 1 year span, which is huge. Is a big growth spur. So at what point do you kind of decide to allocate the majority of your focus, time, and energy to the Max Challenge?
It was probably about 24 months after we opened up that first, in the karate school, the program, I call it the program, right? So it's probably about 24, maybe 36 months after that, between 2 and 3 years. And really what it was a combination of a couple things. One is having the right people, right? Like if you don't have the right people, it's not gonna work. So again, making sure that I developed the core team that was really gonna support a more aggressive expansion strategy. And that's an ongoing process, by the way, right? It's not like a straight line. Like you discover as you go along what you really need, what you're looking for, what the strengths, the weaknesses, and yourself and myself, I discovered, and in the team, right? And then together, we firmed up and move forward. And besides that, you're right. Like a lot of people say capital, and certainly being undercapitalized is not a good idea. But for us, we opened up our opening balance on our balance sheet of our first franchise document. And your franchise document, you have audited statements. Our opening balance was $10,000. So wasn't a lot of money really, and we just took it from there. But the staff is number one. In fact, I used to say to my attorney, he used to say, this is a tremendous idea. You grew to 6 locations. You should get some private equity investment, this and that, the other thing. And I used to look him straight in the eye and say, we don't need money. We need the right people. Yeah. Right. And that's the key. If you have the right people, even if your idea isn't that great, you can make the idea work pretty good.
Yeah.
And if you have the right people and your idea becomes obsolete, let's say COVID hits and your idea becomes less effective because you can't meet in person or whatever it might be. Like in our case, we could no longer meet in person. It was done and over. We were shut down completely. If you have the right people with the drive and the passion and some smarts, they'll figure out how to pivot and move and, initiate a new idea and make it work.
Yeah.
And make it work.
Bryan, how do you create culture within the program that you offer? I would assume that there's certainly a culture amongst the membership, and also amongst the staff. And so how do you address those things? How do you work on those things? How do you invest yourself in those areas?
Number one, the first thing is myself, right? Because people aren't going to do what I don't do, right? So if I'm saying like, we're going to help people live happier, healthier, more fulfilled lives, well, then certainly the decisions that I make have to be a reflection of that higher ideal. In our business, we call it the higher purpose. So our higher purpose is to help people live happier, healthier, more fulfilled lives. And it starts with me. And then just like we were talking about through this whole thing, you pointed out, then putting everybody through that filter and making sure that, to the best that we can, because it's not, hiring is a tough thing.
Yeah.
And, so if you're right 50, 60, 70% of the time, then you're probably one of the best in the world, I think, because you do make, I make bad choices in hiring all the time, but, staying true to that and making sure that we keep it strong, keep the people on the team, at least 80% of the people on the team, 100% aligned with that idea of helping people live happier, healthier, more fulfilled lives. And then defining the values and then exemplifying and not only exemplifying them myself, but then looking for opportunities to congratulate members of the team for exemplifying those values. Man, did you see, like as an example, like I would say, so did you see how, even just on the front lines in a class, how so-and-so brought the class together at the end, how the energy in the class, everybody was like connected. They really cared about each other. They were high-fiving. They were supporting that one member who was having a hard time, and that people often will do more of whatever you bring attention to.
Yeah.
So if I go in and I talk about what's negative, they're going to do more of that. But if I go in and I say, man, the way you brought that class together at the end was absolutely fantastic, and I saw in their eyes how much affection they had for you and the others in the class, that's just incredible. Not only does it bring out more of good in them, but anyone who's within an earshot of that is like, all right, that's what they're looking for here.
Yep, that's right. In that's actually positive direction goes a lot further than negative direction. Or, for example, something as simple as when a child is running in the hallway and you say, "Don't run," you better off saying walk. You give instruction as to what is that is expected, and that concept applies to many areas, including talking to your team. Right? You want to make sure that they feel validated. You want to make sure that you recognize their strengths, and right on. People see, oh, okay, so that's what they want. That's what he wants. Okay, that's what I'm gonna do. Right?
Just to piggyback what you're saying, it creates a positive environment rather than a punitive environment where you're punishing for the wrong. It's more sometimes you do have to point out something.
Of course, yeah.
But as long as we're consciously getting more pluses in the emotional bank account than minuses, it works out tremendously. And I wish I knew that 30 years ago.
Yeah. Well, you learn over time. You learn listening to people with more experience. So I know our listeners are learning, listening to you, and learning from your experience. Um, in in business, when you have self-employed individuals, right, who own a job, not necessarily own a business, and they have to do a little bit of everything. As you move up to a different role within your business, where you become actually a business owner, and as a business owner, you're overseeing perhaps client attractions, employee or talent attractions, and culture. And as you continue to grow, now you're overseeing people who are overseeing things for you. And you are perhaps more invested in culture than other things. And for our conversation, I pick up that that's kind of where you are in your stage. And tell me, what is that like? How do you keep organized? How do you make sure that all those pieces are moving in the right direction?
How do I make sure all the pieces are, so number one, I wouldn't say number one, but a big part of it is data, because I can't be in 72 locations at once. So, really, I need to empower the people under me really to make fantastic decisions, not to keep coming back to this passion and this why thing, but it is true. Putting the data aside for a minute, when somebody's in it for the right reasons and they understand the culture and they understand the values and they understand ultimately what we're trying to go, they can make better decisions on the front line, if that makes sense, right? Because they're putting it through that filter themselves. They're taught how to put it through the filter. Okay, like this is the way that Bryan would do it here. This is the way that the person that taught me would do it here. But then on top of that, it is the data, like knowing what the baseline in each of our key business processes are, like our lead generation. Our average center generates X number of leads. So for the people listening in your business, whatever it might be, if it's a fitness business, how many people walk in every single day? If it's a bakery, how many people walk in and how many people that walk in purchase and what's their purchase and what's the average ticket of a sale. So you'd have like 3 or 4 things on that front end. And then how many of those people come back? Because that's a big part of business. People neglect, if you have a small business, like a bakery, a pizza place, a gym, or, capture their email address, their text message. If you could, tap into that and then get people to come back more often, that's huge. And at the executive level, how you track those things is you've got to measure it. You've got to have the data. And I think that's where a lot of small business owners get, boggled down. They either go too much in one direction and they don't have any data at all. And they feel like I'm here doing it myself. So, I don't need it. And then on the other end, they get too much into the data, they track everything, and then you can't really, it's not about tracking everything, and it's about the action that you could take off the data that you track. So hopefully that's helpful to somebody out there.
I think that's incredibly helpful, Brian. I mean, it's huge. You're right on. You get so caught up in the doing, you lose track of the data. And I think all of us, everyone is not great at estimating. Either they go too high or they go too low. Either they underestimate, overestimate. It happens all the time. And then getting too caught up in collecting data, but not understanding how that translates into a plan, action steps, or tactics. Um, it stumps the growth of your business because you're handicapped. You need that information in order to move forward. I love having this conversation with you, Brian, because we're getting myself, the audience, we're kind of peeking into the mind of someone who's running a successful business. So certainly for all of us, it's like, okay, he's doing that. That's working. I need to be doing that too. Yeah. So when you're at this stage, the stage that you are right now, are you about maintaining? Do you still are looking for growth to reach more people? Do you consciously say, okay, we're gonna just hang back for a little while until we're ready for another growth spurt? How does that work in your thought process?
Yeah. So, that I've been through all these stages in the last 24 months. When COVID hit, we immediately jumped into action. And the initiative was, guys, we're going to build a white picket fence around our membership base. We're going to protect it. We're not going to focus on bringing new people in as much in the beginning because we don't know what the future has in store. So we need to keep our community of people together and connected. So we, as an example, we immediately pivoted and went virtual. And this was before the government mandated that we close. About 2 weeks before, I was in New York City. I saw what was happening in terms of like people wearing masks. I was thinking to myself, I see what's happening in other countries. This is going to close. So we closed ahead of the government mandated close. We went virtual. It was crazy. It was stressful, but it turned out to be worth it. And the idea was we're going to build a white picket fence and we're going to protect what we have, right? Then as time went on, we got a hang of it. We started to learn how to really deliver our services over the internet, fitness, nutrition, and motivation, and engage people, and what the cadence of the interaction needed to be. We shifted a little bit, and then we started to go into a little bit of a growth mode and say, okay, how do we attract people to our virtual offerings? And we were moderately successful. It wasn't like it was a bang up job. Now, as we're coming out of this, we have this incredible base of members that we kept with us. People are coming back into our centers. And actually, we're going into a new stage. We're different than we were before, a different growth mode that's incredibly exciting to me. So I'll explain it so that you could understand like my thought process. I see a new opportunity. So many people that would love to own their own fitness business, but they don't have the capital, or they feel like they don't have the capital. I started to think it's so many because they were out of work. Now they're trying to get back into it. It's not the same and such. Started to think back to the early days where I started as a program in the karate schools. And I thought, here I have a system that could help somebody, teach them step by step how to start it as a program and then move it into a full-fledged freestanding business in a shopping center, like every other respectable, fitness brand, but they start with very low capital, they move through. And so that's our next phase of growth. And we're very excited about it. Nice. And, we're tiptoeing in the beginning. We're getting our toes wet now. We actually just opened up in Mill Basin, Brooklyn, in this model. It's called the Express model, we call it, because we could get it up and running fast with the right person. And the gentleman there, Mike Anderson, is just a killer. He loves it. loves the Max, and he opened up with like 70 something members, which is great. We did the same thing in Ohio, and we have several other ones in the hopper. So, same as in the beginning, like making small bets, and then we'll see what works, and then we're going to feed the winners and starve the losers. Whatever doesn't work, we push it aside. Whatever's working, we're going to keep pouring more fuel on those fires. But I've got a strong suspicion that this plan to help people get into business for themselves, this 18-month plan, is going to it's going to pick up steam as we create these success stories.
Yeah. Is the Express Challenge?
We're calling it an express model because they don't have to go out and right now, somebody opens up a Max Challenge. It's a franchise, so they franchise. It could cost 150. It could cost 200. It costs 250. When they open up with the express model, 30,000. They need money for advertising, a month or two rent, some operating capital, and they're in business. And we have a plan to help them step by step get to where they want to go.
Yeah. So for our audience, people who may be interested in this, where should they go? Who should they reach out to? What's the best place to get more information on this express method?
Sure.
Express model.
They could visit themaxchallenge.com, and on there, just follow the link. There's a form to fill out, and we'll contact you. Or they could just email me directly at Bryan@themaxchallenge, and I'd be more than happy to point them in the right direction.
Nice. I'm sure there's people who are looking to have their own business and might be particularly interested in this industry, particularly in transforming people's lives or helping contribute people's lives, but they just haven't found the right fit, and this might just be the right fit for them. So yeah, that information is incredibly good. I love how you are sharing all of this information and giving us light into like how you went from the karate school with your motivation to serve others, and then had this vision and you pursue that vision, and then it kept on growing and growing and continues to grow even now. And the eye of kind of getting ahead of what's coming, right? So you went to New York, you saw what was going on, and you made a call. Okay, we're going to be doing this, and you were right on. You were right in making that decision because you were more prepared than other people who were not prepared, and were just surprised, right?
Yes, but at the same time, I had to like dig deep to do that. Yeah, because I didn't know if I was right or wrong. I think that's where people got to really recognize. Not enough leaders, I think, say that, right? It's not like, yeah, I was 100% positive that this was, going to happen. I had a pretty good hunch. Everything was pointing in this direction. I was starting to, intuitively feel something, and I said, you know what? Like, I want to keep the people in this office safe. I want to keep the people in the center safe. This is going to happen anyway. So why not get ahead of it and be the first ones, or one of the first ones to do this?
Yeah.
And it happened that in this instance, I was right. But any leader will tell you, if they're telling you the truth, as much as you're right, you make some wrong decisions too. It's just a question of just keep moving forward. Keep moving forward.
Yeah. And it's the exercise of making decisions, right? You can make a decision, and if it's not what you expected, you make another decision and another decision. And the more decisions you make, you get better at making decisions. And I think successful business owners, that's what they do, right? They get good at making decisions.
Right? True.
Yeah.
When we talk about it in the office, we say that, business really is just a whole bunch of problems lined up in a row. Once you accept it, and then it's like, okay, but you focus on this one problem and then get it out of the way. Make decisions, get it out of the way, then go to the next one. But the faster you could do that, it seems logical, right? Like the faster you could like solve this, go, solve this, go, solve this, go. But if you think too much about everything, you're just slowing down your progress. It's going to take a lot longer to get to where you want to go.
I heard a quote just about a week ago. Leadership acknowledges facts without losing faith. Or you could say leadership acknowledges facts without losing motivation, etc. Sometimes if we uh, dwell too much on the facts, begin to lose hope, then we take even longer to take action, make a decision, move forward, press through it. So yeah, definitely those are things that all of us as business owners need to be putting into practice, need to be exercising, because it's like a muscle, right? You have to get good at it, and the more you do it, the better you get at it.
So true.
And you got to be okay with making mistakes. So what's next for you, Bryan?
What's next for me? So, the most significant thing that I'm working on right now is just bringing people back together, just bringing them back together and moving forward in a way that's stronger than it ever has before. Because if you face it, the truth of what we've all been through, it was a shared traumatic experience for many people. And, everybody's reacting differently. So I'm doing my best to be a good person, not be judgmental, and bring people together in the best way possible and make the Max Challenge even better than it was before. Really, not just the members are of the utmost important. We want them to continue to get these incredible benefits of our program. But now the second program of helping people to really benefit and by doing something they love with their life, not just build a career, but build a life with their career that fulfills them in many ways. That's really what's next. And I'm very excited for it.
And I'm excited for you too, Bryan.
Thank
Really
you.
am. I've really enjoyed my conversation with you. I am certain that our audience has enjoyed this podcast as well. There's a lot of good stuff. You definitely want to listen to this podcast a few times because there's a lot of good things there that if you put into practice in your own business, in your own life, you will find success without a doubt. Bryan, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. This has been a wonderful interview.
Thank you. I appreciate your time as well.
Thanks for tuning in to today's show. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the show, go to NewJerseyBusinessPodcast.com. That's NewJerseyBusinessPodcast.com. We can't wait to hear from you and your business. You can also visit our website to learn about sponsorship opportunities and how to qualify for a complimentary gift. Thanks again for listening to the New Jersey Business Podcast.